is culture. I say it's 100% biology and 100% culture. They go absolutely hand in hand.
Coming up next.
The games will now begin.
Do you think like a man?
Stuff like that always makes sense to me.
Or a woman?
These were all visual words.
Play along with our group as we test their language, memory, spatial skills, and more. The Brain Game. What's sex got to do with it? With Dr. Nancy Snyderman. Brought to you by State. Once again, The Brain Game. What's sex got to do with it? With Dr. Nancy Snyderman.
So, do you think more like a man or a woman? Now you can find out, because we're going to let you play the Brain Game. Some of our tests require pen and paper, but as you'll see, the sex of our brains is put to the test every day. Parallel parking, a no-brainer to most guys. But how many women do you know who would drive around the block to avoid it?
Wow, look at the confidence.
It's just a simple game of darts.
This is not an easy thing to do.
Or is it? So just how did men come to excel in motor and spatial skills, and women in the verbal department? Evolutionary scientists claim it all begins with our ancient ancestors.
Women needed to hold that baby in front of their face, cajoling it, reprimanding it, educating it with words. Men didn't need words on the hunt. For this, they needed spatial skills. We've got an old brain in a very modern culture.
Now, in grade school, girls usually outshine the boys in every subject, including math. However,
early math really isn't math. It's really more about language problems. You have 25 cents, you have 3 bananas, they cost 8 cents. How much change do you have?
but once puberty hits, boys get a second surge of the male hormone testosterone. Some theorize it's that rush that helps them rocket ahead in advanced math and spatial ability.
The 5,000 is equal to 10 newtons times change in y.
And on average, boys outscore girls in the math SATs by 7%.
It's quite remarkable how much better boys become at all kinds of spatial skills, mechanical skills, engineering skills, when that surge of testosterone comes on them.
Meanwhile, estrogen starts flooding the girls' bodies. Experts think that boost helps them develop stronger verbal and memory skills.
In the middle of the monthly menstrual cycle, when estrogen levels peak, a woman's ability to find the right word rapidly goes up. But even at menstruation, she's better than most men.
So are y'all ready? Meet our group of 5 men and 5 women. An actress, a mom, a businesswoman, a graphic designer, a female and a male computer specialist, a college administrator, a respiratory therapist, a portfolio manager, and a retired salesman. They've agreed to be our unscientific guinea pigs, helping us put these theories on sex differences to the test. If you want to, grab a paper and pen and play along with us.
The games will now begin.
First, I gave our group a list of 12 words we would discuss later. Apple, shoe, dog, orange, paper, lamp, jar, happy, stone, fish, bell, and tree.
Open your blue bags.
Then we went on to another verbal game. The girls join us for play-by-play commentary.
Please write down as many words as you can think of that begin with the letter V. Go.
Women will beat the men.
The girls say that when requested, women produce words faster than men.
Stop. Turn your pads to me.
Oh, you did really well.
Very vast.
Veal,
Victory, veal, venison.
I was just added some voiceless. You know, it's like all that stuff. Like,
You're playing Scrabble over here.
20 for the men, 22 for the women. Pretty close, but women out on top. When we do games like this, even though they're fun, do you think it underscores differences in how we use verbal skills, men and women?
Yeah, I tend to use more descriptive words when I'm talking. Whereas my husband and other men that I talk to tend to be more specific, get to the point a little bit quicker.
The man wants to know, well, what was discussed? Whereas one is giving you the full color. You understand, was the person happy, sad? Was the house nice? But the man just wants the punchline.
But what about identifying emotions? Do our brains work differently? Ask a woman which face is happier, and her brain lights up here in the visual cortex. Ask a man, and his scan lights up in many more places.
They need to work harder to process the emotion information.
Just as a woman's brain has to work harder solving a tough spatial problem.
You're going to look at 10 slides, and you're going to look at the emotion on the slides.
We asked our group, what's the emotion on a series of faces? Who's better at identifying them?
Women are faster. We found that if they have to detect an emotion, they can even detect the emotion before they even know it's a face.
Let's try two.
The one that made everyone crack up.
Anger.
Anger?
Yeah.
You look scared.
Oh, I see sad.
I've seen that.
The answer? Anger.
I put no emotion in.
Oh, I put sad.
Yeah, it was borderline. I almost put no emotion. I thought it was pretty sad.
The answer? No emotion.
Okay, add them up.
Of the 10, the men on average got 7 correct, while the women got 8.
Who would you have expected to do better in this test? Women. Why?
They pick up more subtleties than men would.
After a half hour, I asked the group to recall those 12 words I recited earlier.
Would you please write down as many as you can remember?
The GERS say the women will excel, since receptors for estrogen may be in the part of the brain that's important for memory.
25 for the men, 26 for the women. Very close.
Right in there. They were visual words. Apple, orange, dog. I have a visual impact.
So you accessed a part of your brain where you could make a mental image of it?
Yeah, I think so.
When I heard them, I tried to think of them in alphabetical order. And then also, I realized most of the words were 4 and 5 letter. That made it easier for me
A
to
rather
remember.
mathematical approach.
And it's that mathematical approach that helps the men take the lead once we start testing spatial skills.
Would you please draw a bicycle?
Men, their bike will look more like bikes you could ride, whereas the women will draw bikes that probably couldn't be built.
How would you describe this bicycle picture?
I like the pedal mechanism. It looks like
Pedal mechanism. Yeah. That's a boy term.
Yeah, the pedals are really good.
How would you describe the pedal mechanism on this bike? What's missing on this bike?
Gears and
the chain.
Here's a chain. Show of hands for women who put a chain on their bicycle. 2 out of 5. How many men put a chain on their bicycle? 4 out of 5. Classically, women don't put down the chain.
I did have the chain, but I couldn't figure out how it all connected.
Next, some elementary physics tests. Which line would show you what the water level looks like in this truck? Now let's try this one. How would a chain hang on this truck?
Most men will not see it as a problem, whereas women, even if they're very smart, and even if they answer correctly, they will not wonder, why are you asking me such a silly
You'll see it as
question?
a challenge.
The answers? The water would be straight across, and the chain would hang straight down.
Stuff like that always makes sense to me immediately.
And can you look at it and just see it?
Yeah.
I totally got that wrong.
Where did you think the chain would be?
I picked A, which would mean that...
That it was going along with the truck.
Yeah, absolutely.
With a mind of its own.
Of course.
Dr. Gurr was right. The men do better than the women. And when we take our group to the Barcode, a high-tech video arcade in New York's Times Square, the men's motor skills really hit home. They ace virtually every game. While all these games were just a fun experiment, they may help explain the career choices men and women make in the real world.
85% of the architects in America are still men. 90% of the mechanics are still men. Even with all of these professions opening up to both men and women, I'm not at all surprised that men gravitate to those jobs that need and require mechanical and spatial skills.
Meanwhile, women make up 94% of all speech therapists, while 99% of all pre-K and kindergarten teachers are female. But biologist Ann Fausto Sterling has a cautionary note.
By saying something is innate, we shut doors and say, well, this is just the way it is. We close down possibilities. For every woman I think of who's stereotypically female, I can think of one who isn't, and the same for men.
It's true, the sexes overlap in many of these skills.
Any surprises today?
How close we were.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be really different.
And the results.
Yes,
Very
in terms of
surprising.
my thinking.
Our own surprise was a test where the women should have won, but the men did. We sat some of our group members in an office with a hidden camera running, and later asked them to remember the items on the desk. The men had the better recall. Another group of 10 might have given us different results. It all just reinforces the belief that no matter how different our brains are at birth, there's room for change.
Even if there are dispositions that we're born with, it doesn't mean that environments can alter them. The thing we know about brains now that we didn't know 10 years ago is that the brain is not a static organ. It's changing throughout our lives.
Still to come, what do gambling, fine food, and love have in common?
It's a very quick, very automatic response.
Love, lust, beauty, and the brain. When the Brain Game, What's Sex Got to Do with It, continues. And to play more brain games, go to abcnews.com.